Welcome to the Qualcomm podcast. From 5G and AI to XR and IoT, Qualcomm is creating the newest technologies to transform lives and industries across the globe. I'll be taking you behind the scenes with the inventors and experts bringing the technology to life, so you can hear all about the most exciting evolutions in tech, right from the source. I'm PJ, and thanks for listening. Thank you, everybody, for joining. All right, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Qualcomm Thinkabit Lab and its annual STEM summer camps, STEM science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we're going to learn about how distance learning has made it possible for more students than ever to participate this year. So I brought in some awesome guests. We have Dr. Gloria Bañuelos, or Dr. B, and she's our Thinkabit Lab lead here at Qualcomm. And we also brought in Angela Baker, who's our Senior Director of Corporate Responsibility at Qualcomm. Welcome both of you to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here.
This is awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you guys can make it. And first off, Angela, if you could just give us some background on Qualcomm's efforts for society impact, our philanthropic efforts and things that we're doing.
Absolutely. So there are a number of things happening across the company, and some of the things that we work on in government affairs is our what we call Qualcomm Corporate Responsibility, or Qualcomm for Good. And it's really looking at how there's a few teams looking at different areas. So the first would be our wireless reach team, which is looking at how the technology that Qualcomm designs can be leveraged for social and economic impact globally. So that's anything from like drones for agriculture to tablets in the classroom to, healthcare, remote healthcare. We also have our sustainability programs, which are looking at, what the company is doing both externally and within our own operations for, environmental impact, human rights in the supply chain, reporting out on diversity and inclusion. And then we have a number of STEM programs, right? And it's important for a company like Qualcomm, right? We're a tech company, to work across, as you said, science, technology, engineering, and math. We work with a number of external partners, with like FIRST or the USS Midway in San Diego or the Fleet Science Center. And then we have our own homegrown Thinkabit Lab program.
Fantastic. And yes, STEM, I have a little rule on the podcast. Anytime we use an acronym, I always jump in and just spell it out. So I appreciate you giving us that context. And let's get into it, the Thinkabit Lab. So Angela, what is the Thinkabit Lab though?
Yeah, so the Thinkabit Lab is our response to working with Qualcomm talent and others to engage and inspire kids in STEM education. So we're a company of inventors. We care deeply about STEM education, of course. We want to have a diverse talent pool that's building all of this technology. We launched the Thinkabit Lab program in 2014, right at Qualcomm's headquarters in San Diego, as a way to give students from all backgrounds, right, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, the opportunities to explore STEM and really learn about technology. And we wanted to also give them the opportunity to learn about what was interesting to them. So what are their strengths and their interests and their values, and what career choices might they want to look at, as they're doing their education. So since 2014, we have expanded the Thinkabit Lab program across the US. We've done a number of different kinds of programs, and one of those is our summer camps, right? They're usually, traditionally, a week-long camp for rising 7th graders to 11th graders. Students learn about things like the Internet of Things and how technology can impact, our current world and our future. As I said, they explore their talents to see what kind of careers might interest them. Of course, we have everything from government affairs representatives to patent attorneys to engineers to computer scientists at Qualcomm.
It's a full-blown school, basically, at Qualcomm. I mean, from when I've walked in there, I've seen kids learning to code and working with breadboards and just building robotics.
Absolutely. So when we started at Qualcomm, it was a one-day experience, right? Kids came to headquarters for one day, and we called it a STEM exposure program because we just wanted to say, like, hey, here are some things you might not have seen with STEM. Of course, they get science and math at school, but there are lots of other areas of STEM. We want to show them, what is Internet of Things? How can technology be used for good? How can they, a lot of research shows that young people, and especially girls, are really interested in working with technology when they see how it impacts their community. And so they often start with a healthcare program or agriculture or something like that, figuring out how to make the world a better place, but doing it through the lens of invention. So that's really the goal of our one-week camps.
So obviously this year's a little bit different. So really thankful to bring in Dr. B, and I want us to explain. I would love for you to explain more about the transition and how we were able to, do connected learning and bring in and expand this program to more students than we ever did before.
It's an incredible story, PJ. It was really important for Qualcomm that our STEM camps came to fruition this summer. As you know, opportunities for students to engage in hands-on engineering and career exploration activities were cut short this spring with COVID-19 and the pandemic. So the good news is we were already set to expand. That was the good news. And doing so in a connected learning environment enabled us to amplify our reach. We tripled the number of students who participated this summer. We had six
Wow.
times the number. I know, right? Tripled. I mean, that just makes my heart like go really fast because it's just so exciting. Six times the number of week-long sessions offered across the country, and 15 times the number of tech for good inventions in the areas such as healthcare and public safety and education, as Angela explained, earlier in our
And
program.
these are inventions by the students?
It's every single student that
Wow.
this summer, because we were in a connected learning environment, every single student had an opportunity to have their own kit and build their own invention on their own. In the past, there had been 4 students to 1 hardware kit and 1 invention. So it's an explosion really of
Wow.
inventions.
And what's in
And
the kit?
so the kit has a microcontroller,
Okay.
so an Arduino. It has 2 motors or servos that have different motions, if you will. One has a 360 and one has a 180 motion.
Okay.
There's wires and a breadboard
Wow.
and an indicator, an LED or a light
Wow.
emitting diode.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I would say that our greatest success story is our collaboration with the American Association of University Women. This year, because we were in a connected learning environment, we doubled the number of girls that participated in their Tech Trek program, which is an all-girls summer camp from all over Southern California. We were able to have a 1-to-1 ratio between participant and AAUW volunteer. They were able to engage a cadre of volunteers from all over the country. And I think that the San Diego chapter was the only AAUW chapter that had a summer camp this year.
Wow. And it's all done through video chat and you sharing screens and you're teaching these kids virtually on how to work with
Yes.
the entire kit.
Yeah, so I can give you a little bit of how that played out, right? So you asked about what was in the kit. What's awesome also about this summer is that they, because they were able to keep the kit, when I come on Fridays and they present, I always tell the students, I'm like, okay, and this is the beginning of your journey. I said, because now you can keep on coding and keep on inventing by going to our learning center. So we have at Thinkabit Lab / learning center, we have activities that students can continue to using their hardware here. So that's really the benefit of them keeping their hardware kit, is that they can continue to iterate on inventions or creating new inventions. So it's really the beginning of their coding journey. It's the beginning of them becoming an engineer. And so the way that the instructors did this, they used video chat.
Okay.
And they also use pre-recorded sessions, which enabled students to work at their own pace. So they did video chat for about 3 hours, and then followed by either group or independent work. And they also had breakout rooms where students could come together to collaborate on their project with another student, receive technical support, or support with brainstorming the design of their invention, their Tech for Good invention.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. So they were not able to not just, connect with you and learn from you, but they were able to learn from each other and do breakouts and
Absolutely.
actually work with each other. That's incredible. So, I mean, what did you see this summer, and what were some of the takeaways? I mean, what were some of the things that wowed you?
Wow, yes. So our summer camps kicked off in June. And so every Friday for the past month and every Friday through the end of August, I get to see these amazing presentations, right? And so at our wearables camp, which is designed for all girls, they connected their strengths, interests, and their values to STEM. and they created a robotic hat. And in doing so, and it was cool to see, some created caps, others had top hats, and I even saw a Western style hat, which is my
Oh,
favorite.
wow. Oh my God. So it was like a
Yeah,
smart hat. What does the hat do? What is it?
it's a robotic hat. It varied in terms of one girl had she had a top hat, and at the top she had a lab. And she had a little microscope, and she used one of the motors to move it, and then she had the indicator light that would tell her when the experiment was done. For example, it would turn green.
Wow.
So it's just so that was our wearables camp. But then we also had a Tech for Good camp, and those students, one came up with a mask dispenser.
Oh, wow.
Another one came up with a hand washing timer to help us keep us safe from COVID-19. I mean, these are really ingenious inventions. So we have Tech for Good, we have wearables, we have Ag Tech for Good, and that's all because we want our program to be responsive to the local communities in which it's being implemented, right? So we've got, communities that look different, that have different kinds of people, that have different local economies, right? And so in our Ag Tech for Good, we had high school student develop a prototype for a more efficient irrigation system. And then in the middle school out in North Carolina, another rural community, we had a crop duster, a robotic fruit
What?
cutter, and
Wow.
my personal favorite, and this was so touching when I heard this. So there was this young girl that, her first idea had not come to fruition. She couldn't get her project to work. She had to pivot. It would the time, the clock was ticking. So she looked outside her window and she saw men carrying hay bales from point A to point B. And she thought, wow, that's so much work. Look at all these men carrying these hay bales. So she created a conveyor belt. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It was amazing. It's so much fun. And Angela can share her favorite too, but it's just amazing. These kids, they're so kind, and they care about the environment, and they're passionate about doing good. And so they really take these ideas and they find problems, whether it be in their homes or in their communities or among their friends, to create these inventions. Angela, do you want to share your favorite?
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I think, Gloria, the enthusiasm and all the examples are so amazing. And I think it really speaks to the program. So PJ, you asked about the virtual component. And I think that's what's been so amazing about this summer, right? Because if you, I know it's hard now because we've been in it for so long, but if you remember back to March, like teachers and students were asked to pivot like that, with like going from being in the classroom to students becoming virtual learners and teachers becoming virtual teachers, like with very little resources, right? They just had to pivot because nobody could leave their home.
Right.
And so fast forward to the summer where kids have been doing online learning for, 2 to 3 months. They're fatigued by it. Teachers are fatigued by it. And I think it's really a testament to Gloria and the team that, we were able to pivot these camps that we normally do in person to making them online, to making them engaging, where students wanted to do this in their summertime, right? Because before they were getting together in groups, they were making friendships. I mean, there's lots of things that happen when you go to any kind of camp, right? You're learning to work together and those types of things. And we were still able to deliver on that virtually. And I think the teachers were able to see how they could teach virtually.
Definitely. It sounds like you guys really tapped into something. And I mean, the fact that the kids not just learned, but they really took this, and it seems like they tapped into a passion that they delivered into real world tangible IoT products. And it sounds like IoT is a great starting place for the kids to get interested in STEM.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if we take it back a step, right, as a company, we are always looking at how we can leverage the technology that we're building, for social impact. I think that's one of our purposes as a company. And I think that, we have this whole purposeful innovation. So we want to engage kids around the tech that we're building. Of course, IoT, lots of Qualcomm technology and IoT. And we know that we live in a super connected world. All of these devices are becoming more connected. And we want to make sure that, these students are coming in, they can see themselves as inventors and as creators and problem solvers, not just as consumers of tech, which of course we all are. We're all consuming a lot right now. But one of the things I think that's really interesting about the way Qualcomm does corporate responsibility is that we collect a lot of data, right? We're always trying to look at what we are doing. Like, for example, in this, as a starting point with IoT and kids, what's working, what's not working, so that we're able to pivot as needed, right? Because again, we want to meet the kids where they are. We don't want to just say, like, here's something we think you will find interesting, right? And so Gloria and team do a lot of surveys. We work with third parties to help us in terms of data collection. And we have seen that the program's working. Like, we're not just doing this because we think it's a feel-good thing. Like, we know it's actually enriching lives and helping kids become engaged in STEM. And again, from our perspective, we want to build a diverse talent pool that we can pull from later, right? And we need a diverse talent pool now to help build technology, but we also have to keep thinking about that for our future. So we've seen that through these summer camps and through this Thinkabit Lab program, 25%, this is at one school, Porterville, which is one of our sites, but 25% increase in student knowledge of their strengths, interests, and values. That might be something you do as a professional. Maybe you've taken Strengths Finder or something like that to look at what sort of drives you. It might not be something you had done by 7th, 8th grade, right? So what are you passionate about? Do you want to be a chemical engineer? Do you want to, again, go the patent attorney route? I mean, there's lots of options available to you. We saw a 21% increased interest in engineering, right? Engineering is not something you traditionally get in school. And I think, as Gloria has said to me many times, with the move to virtual, the focus is going to be on those core competencies, right? The science, the math, and engineering education might fall by the wayside while kids are doing this virtual environment. So I think this is going to be really key in terms of keeping up that drumbeat to keep kids engaged in engineering or STEM education. And I think, a lot of kids that go through this program, they just express interest in taking more advanced STEM courses. So they might not all turn out to be engineers, but of course there's lots of things that I don't have an engineering degree. I have IR degrees, but I'm working at a tech company and engineering is obviously part of what we're doing here. So I think the results have been quite interesting.
Absolutely. And Dr. B, it sounds like, you spoke about also how you were helping, empower people of all different backgrounds to get engaged. And you spoke about how you got young girls active and encourage more diverse STEM background. How'd you do it? And what'd you see?
Well, I have to say, when you watch these presentations from the students, they have such pride in their inventions that I actually think that you can see you can see their increase in engineering. Like an engineering career just radiate from them. I mean, this increase in like, wow, I can be an engineer, or I can do engineering, or I was an inventor, or I am an inventor. I created this cool thing is super empowering. So I think that's where we start. We start with tangible experiences, and we offer them to students that normally can't or do not participate in this, right? So the research is clear about the lack of diversity in STEM fields. I think we would all agree the research is clear there. It's also common knowledge that there's a lack of invention-based programs specifically, and that's why we have organizations like the National Science Foundation that focus on funding organizations to offer these type of STEM-based programs, right? And that's why at Qualcomm we make a point of offering these experiences to students that live in rural communities, like out in North Carolina, or in agriculture communities, like in Porterville, right, in the Central Valley here in California, or from students from diverse backgrounds, whether it be racial or ethnic, right? And I think especially for girls, again, girls in particular, we know that when they're in elementary school, they're good at math. They love math. I saw so many robotic hats with mathematical symbols to represent. I love math,
Very
right?
cool.
I'm doing great in math. And so there's this, the statistic from Girls Who Code that 74% of all middle schools show interest in STEM. And somewhere along the way, that changes, and it could change because of gender stereotypes. It could change because of lack of diversity and inclusion in the industry, or lack of opportunities. And for a variety of reasons, this huge cohort of middle school girls don't ever realize their potential in a STEM field. Despite accounting for over half of the college-educated workforce, women in the U.S. made up only 29% of those employed in science and engineering in 2017. and women of color make up 11.5%.
I think all of that, that's exciting. It sounds great. And I thank you for all the work you've done. It's like crazy what you've been able to do with distance learning at the Thinkabit Lab. You know, robotic hats, robotic mask dispensers, and barrels of hay being transported. It's amazing. And it sounds like, you know, everyone's talking about opening up schools in the fall, and you've been open this whole time. And what's the plan for the Thinkabit Lab in the fall?
You know, I think that being able to operate this summer in a connected learning environment, you know, I talked about how we expanded our reach in with students, but we also expanded our reach with instructors, right? So, for example, with the AAUW, I mentioned that we had a 1-to-1 ratio. So all of the camps, they required more instructors to be on hand to manage the breakout rooms, right? So as a result, our main Thinkabit Lab instructors engaged other instructors in their schools. And I think one of the great outcomes is that these teachers, not only our teachers, but the teachers that they engage to help with these programs, are feeling more confident about working in a connected learning environment, right? So we're impacting the educational system at large, as well as our own programs. So yes, we have 16 sites across the nation, and they will implement our program in the fall, and some will continue to do it in person, right? Because every school district is responding to their own local rules and policies. So some schools are going to be able to implement our program in person. Other sites are going to implement it in a hybrid environment, and then others will go only connected learning environment. And so I think it's super important, and Angela mentioned this, there's going to be a focus on those core subjects and hands-on activities already in a normal classroom environment were already difficult, right? That's why we have the gap in the first place. So you add connected learning, and these hands-on activities, invention-based programs, engaging activities are going to become fewer and fewer because of the connected learning environment. And what Qualcomm has discovered is that these experiences are just as rich in a connected learning environment.
Absolutely. And I congratulate you on all your success on getting even more students than ever. And where can people go to learn more about the Thinkabit Labs?
Yes, so Thinkabit Lab, you can go to our website, www.thinkabitlab.com, and click on our Learning Center. On the top right corner, you will get how to get started guide. So there's a guide there on how to get started with a microcontroller, with a breadboard, how do I download Arduino, and then there's also a materials list where you could buy all the individual components of our hardware kit for less than
awesome.
$50, I don't know, $40, cool, somewhere there. And then there's a suite of activities, how to program an LED to blink, how to program a servo, how to do 2 servos. So you can get started there. Anyone can get started, and that's our message. Anyone can be an inventor. Anyone can be an engineer. What we need to do is provide those opportunities to students and make them a reality so that they can see themselves in this future career and participate in inventing tech for good.
That's amazing. Thank you for all your help. And Angela, where can people find out more about Qualcomm and their programs, about all of our corporate responsibility and our Qualcomm for Good and our philanthropic efforts that you're working on?
Yep, you can follow us on social media at Qualcomm for Good.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, both of you, for coming in. This was an awesome time. I can't believe how many kids are just making amazing things, and they're doing it at this time via distance. And it sounds like the Thinkabit Labs have created an awesome path going forward, and it's amazing. And thank both of you for coming in. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks, PJ.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Qualcomm podcast. If you haven't already subscribed, you can do so via SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Google Podcast. And by the way, our friends at Legal really want you to know that references to Qualcomm may be Qualcomm Incorporated, Qualcomm Technologies Inc., and/or its subsidiaries. Until next time.